Hello, everyone. This is the Priceless Podcast. I'm the Priceless Podcast host, Angela Chen. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. If you want to follow this podcast, you can follow it on Facebook and Instagram, and there is also a way for you to support this podcast through a donation. Subscribe, like, comment after you watch this video, because this helps people to see or that the video comes a little bit more higher on the top when someone searches for a topic like this. And of course, you can share this podcast with your friends, with people you know, or on your own or your Facebook page. Today with me, I have a new guest, of course, like for most of the episodes. The guest is from Sweden, and it's Elin Wester.
My identity is asexual and aromantic. And I'm also a cis person, he, she pronouns. I'm a Christian, and I'm also a Baptist evangelical Christian. I'm actually also a pastor in this church, but I'm not working as a pastor right now. I had this struggle within myself that I have actually never understood my own sexuality. And when I was 37 years old, it had really become a problem for me, because I was wondering, why can I never make a relationship with another person? Why can I make my sex life work? And also I had the experience that I've never been in love or experienced any romance feelings. And I was thinking that this is so weird, because I'm not a person who is afraid of taking contact with other people. Well, I couldn't find anything that was wrong with me, but I was struggling with this inside of me. But at the same time, I was so determined that there's no way that I could be asexual. It will be great to be asexual, because then I don't have to feel this pressure of making things happen. But I was convinced that I couldn't be asexual, because all my life I've been having strong feelings of libido, or the sexual area, how do you say? But I felt the strong needs and strong feelings in this area, but I never met a person that I wanted to have sex with. I've never heard about this. I never been able to relate to when people talk about sexualities and how that works. All of a sudden, I could read about things, and I actually could understand myself. And I learned that asexuality is a spectrum, that a lot of people have a lot of different experiences. I learned the definition that asexuality is when you feel little or non-sexual attraction. And a lot of asexual people can be described as they identify as being non-sexual, or they don't have any libido or thoughts about sex at all or anything. Maybe they don't even want to hear about it, because it's not about that there's something wrong with sex, of course, but they don't feel that themselves. Being a romantic is not the same thing as being asexual, but it's an identity where you don't feel romantic attraction, which is being in love or loving someone in a romantic way. And that's also a spectrum that you can feel. You can be gray romantic, for example. You can feel romantic attracted to someone, but very few times in your life, and so on. But for me, it was a very strong experience to learn about aromantic, because I didn't even need to think about it, because when I read the word and the definition on the page, I immediately knew that is me. You were also able to write in a forum, so I very nervously wrote that, oh my God, I read these books, I think this is me, I'm 37 years old, what should I do? And can I be here to learn and talk to people? because the thing is that I've always seen myself as a straight person, and now I was beginning to think that no, it's wrong. I might be I'm not heteronormative, I'm something else. But I was so nervous because I thought, I'm 37 years old, how are you going to do this? And could I be a part of this community? I was so nervous, but everyone was so nice to me. The asexual people, they sent me pictures of cakes, because cake is a very important symbol of the ace community. And there was also suggestions of an aromantic forum, and it's called ARO-ACE. I thought that this is amazing. This is the next step, to talk about other people about this. Then I will know if this is true or not. And the thing that made me so emotional was actually that they didn't need to say that much, and I didn't say very much in the start either, but I just felt at home. I felt that I belonged there, because they were talking about intimacy, relationships, feeling, and everything like that. And I also become very aware that all my life I've been feeling like an outsider. And when people talk about their falling in love and their love stories, and also about their sex life and feelings, people talk a lot about that in the growing up as a teenager and being a young adult. And even if you are an adult in your 30s, of course, it's very present in every conversations. So to be able to meet a group of people that actually get you, and they were saying things that I could relate to, that was actually very overwhelming. I was also quite nervous, because I wanted to introduce myself as a Christian, because that's a huge part of who I am. And I said I'm an LGBTQIA plus affirming Christian. It's very hard to say in English. But the leader of this group said that, well, I'm a Christian as well, and they're from Britain and they're from the Catholic Church, but they also said that even in the LGBTQ affirming communities in church, you are going to be aware that the aromantic perspective is not always recognized or have a place for that. So I really appreciate that I also got that contact, that I could just know that there are even aromantic Christian people. So I could relate to, of course. In the year of 2021, it was very dramatic. I went through this identity crisis, and I was really feeling that everything was, there is something happening when you realize something about your identity that wasn't clear for you, even for you. And then I also made the decision to come out, because I wanted to, of course, but there were a lot of questions. I also became very aware that I'm going through this identity crisis, and even if people are friendly and open to that, they won't understand what it's like. They can't understand what I'm going through. I have this kind of expectation that in Sweden we do know about queer identities, and we know that there is a diversity in sexuality and orientations. But then I realized that when it comes to asexuality and aromanticism, there are so much lack of knowledge and awareness, and asexual and aromantic people, they don't know if they're going to be included or not, and it's very stressful to know, am I accepted in this queer community or not? And the problem for asexual people in Sweden is that if you dare to identify as asexual as your orientation, you have to be prepared to explain yourself, of course, and you have to be prepared that even if you go to healthcare where they have pride flags and they have the LGBTQ certificate, you need to be prepared that if you say that you're aromantic or asexual, the health caregiver could still say to you that no, that's not a valid orientation, you're just in need for treatment. I dare to make my own definition of my life and my orientation. I dare to stand in front of other LGBTQ people or allies and present this as my identity. And I feel very strong because before this happened in my life, I was always afraid that people would ask me about my sex life or sexuality. And I've been carrying a lot of shame inside of myself all my life. But now I have the power that I can actually tell people I'm asexual, I'm aromantic. I think it's easier for the young people of today because there are much more representation coming in books and TV series. The problem with the queer identities, to learn about them, I think it's a lot of books and TV shows are in English. And even if a lot of people and young people are familiar with English, can read in English in Sweden and so on, of course there are people who don't. So it would be nice if there were more information about asexuality and aromanticism in Swedish. And there are a lot of misconceptions about asexuality that is unfortunate. A lot of times people are talking about asexuality without even asking advice from the ace community, which is very unfortunate because I've heard a lot of the definitions on asexuality that asexual people, they don't have a sexuality at all. And that is very alienating because even if they could be right for a lot of asexual people, it's not right for everyone. And by using that kind of definition, you're also erasing a lot of asexual people. You can have as many definitions and textbooks and explanations as a lot of that kind of things, but I think that people really begins to understand when they listen to a person's personal story. But unfortunately, I know that it can be hard for people to accept asexuality even within the LGBTQ community, because there are misconceptions that asexuality is about a negative view of sex. That we are trying to say that sex is wrong or that we are anti-sex, which we are not. There is something so powerful in finding pride in yourself, even if society says that this is nothing that exists, or even if a doctor says that this is unnormal, then people are protesting against that and walking in pride parades, being proud of who they are anyway. If you want to learn about love and sexuality and relationships more, you should need the ACEs and AROs. I just want to say and encourage, go find yourself some ACEs and AROs. They are so important, I think. I would just want to say that being asexual and aromantic is something to be really proud of. And I would like to say to any asexual and aromantic person maybe listening that I just want to say that you are an important person, and your experience of sexuality and romantic orientation and or a lack of of that, if that's how you identify, I would just like to say that it is really important to talk about. And I would wish for you to meet the attitude of others, other LGBTQ Christians or allies or anyone, that if you dare to come out and tell that, well, I come to know that I'm ARO-ACE, I don't know what to do, that you get the support that you need and that you get listened to. And if you don't feel that way, I would just like to encourage you that there are other asexual and aromantic people out there. We should find each other, we should talk about it, and For myself, I would love to get in touch with aromantic Christian people to talk about how can an aromantic theology looks like. That would be so amazing to talk about. I would love that we as Christians or humans even, that we meet each other with the respect and we are willing to learn and listen to each other. That's something that gives me hope.
Thank you, dear viewers and listeners, for being with us today. As I said in the beginning, this podcast was made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and now it's also the time to comment to what you heard and maybe about sharing. Maybe you want to share a little bit of your own experience. And don't forget to share to others who might be interested in this topic. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to support this podcast. So see you next time. Bye, everyone. And bye, Elin.
Bye-bye.